Welcome to the Land to Lots podcast, powered by Launch Development Finance Advisors. And now your host, Carter Froelich.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Land to Lots podcast. My name is Carter Froelich, and today I have the distinct pleasure of welcoming to the podcast my friend and coach and participant in the Strategic Coach Free Zone, Shannon Waller. Shannon, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you here today.
Carter, it is an absolute delight, and I cannot wait for our conversation.
And Shannon, I'm going to have you describe a little bit about your background, but Shannon is the director and teamwork coach for, and also an author, and I think you have two podcasts, and I'm going to list all of your books, and they all have to do with team success, as your podcast is team success. Also, you work with Dan Sullivan and Inside Strategic Coach podcast. Those are all podcasts I listen to every month at a minimum, and I'm always looking for new additions that I can download and listen to. So, Shannon, with that as a little bit of background, why don't you tell me and our listeners more about yourself and what you're doing at Strategic Coach, and then we'll jump into team success and how you coach that.
My favorite topic. So quickly, my history at Strategic Coach. So I joined Strategic Coach in 1991. I didn't realize I was the sixth human on board, and I didn't realize, because the term wasn't around then, that we were actually a startup. And so I've been a part of helping grow the company, and it's interesting because I did sales for the first I think 3 years that I was there, and I was very good. I could make healthy income, built my own sales team, been there, done that. But at some point, I reached a ceiling where I realized it was a numbers game, which you're better at the numbers game than I am. But I was, in Strategic Coach terms, excellent, not unique. So we talk about unique ability, and the unique ability is the center, smallest number of activities at which you are absolutely brilliant and you love to do, and you make a huge difference. You have an impact. But below that, there's excellent activities, superior skill, but no passion. Get bored eventually, but it pays well. You get a great reputation and good teamwork. So it's a little seductive. Then there's competent, at which you are okay, but frankly, so are a lot of other people, a lot of competition. And then finally, most people are familiar with the incompetent activities. These are the ones you were not put on the planet to do. You put in the time and effort, and you do not get the results. They're frustrating and hard, and no matter how much training you invest or time, just doesn't happen. So I made that jump from excellent to unique when I came up with the idea for the team programs. And it started because my clients that I was selling into the program and also supporting them in the Strategic Coach program, they called a few of them called me up and said, "Shannon, can you please explain what I'm doing in Strategic Coach to my team? Because I don't seem to be doing a very good job." So that was one thing. And then one day, one person called me up and said, "What have you done to my entrepreneur? They're acting different." And then the light bulb went on, and I was at that point of excellent, not unique. And I was going back to school, and I needed to come up with the idea for the training program, because I was in a training and design certificate program after my BA. And it was like, the light bulb went on, and I created my first program. So the entire Strategic Coach team programs, which is a $2.5 million part of the company, is the result of a school project.
That's great.
I had to come up with the idea for a team, and then finally, the light bulb went off, and then I created a workshop for team members as a project. And I came back, it was Christmas holidays, actually, and I told Babs, who's co-founder of Strategic Coach, she goes, "Great, let's do it." And then I was like, "Oh crap." Right. And so it took a few months. Dan helped me design the first couple, then I took over. But that's how the team programs got started at Coach. And that has been my lifelong passion for how people operate in business. I think business is the most amazing, both personal and professional development vehicle on the planet, more than any. So those are my beginnings. And I'm married with two kids, almost 25 and almost 22-year-old daughters. In Toronto with my husband. So that's the personal side of Shannon.
Oh, great, Shannon. And for me, the human side of building teams, building companies, communicating is the hardest thing.
It is.
And you know, we all come with different experiences, different hopes and dreams, different ways of communicating. And uh, for me, sometimes I wish I could just lock myself in a room and just, you know, be the solo entrepreneur. But that's it, and that's not going to get us to where we want to go at the end of the day.
Right.
And in coach and with your podcasts and your books and it's really helped me be a better team leader, and also it has shown me what I'm unique at and what I'm not good at. And so to our listeners, and we talked about this before the show, we uh, our listeners are land developers, commercial developers, home builders, and all of us are dealing with teams, either inside our companies,
Mhm.
but we're all engaging outside experts, be it planners, architects, engineers, attorneys, finance folks, and to move these projects forward. And
Mhm.
so it's all about teams, all about team success, because ultimately that will help us have a project and corporate success. So when we're using the term, and you coined it, team success,
Mm.
what does that mean to you?
Oh, it's almost, I almost define it by what it's not.
Okay.
It's an absence of friction and drag when you
Yeah.
are working with other people, which means you can accelerate everyone's contribution towards a clearly defined result that is bigger than what any one person can do. Apparently, there's an African proverb which really rings true. If you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, go together.
Yeah.
Right. So that whole week, what I can do as an individual, I'm fairly capable last time I
Uh-huh.
checked, but
Yep.
it's this big. If I want to go far, I need to figure out how to be a great team member myself. I don't care
Yep.
how expert I am. It's not a hierarchical top down thing. I need
Yeah.
to get really, really good at my parts and then get really good at teamwork with other people, because together we can go so much further. There's no way I could have published a single book by myself.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's
Yeah.
just not, I couldn't do a podcast by myself. That ain't happening.
Yeah.
I have a few very narrow range of skills at which I am really, really good, and I'm confident about that. And then I'm really humble, I hope, about everything else.
So your unique ability, and
Mhm.
you want to stay in your unique ability,
Yes.
and then find others that are in their unique ability coming together to move a process forward, all to a goal that we all understand.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
what are some of the key factors in delineating that goal, explaining that goal, so
Mhm.
that everybody is on the same page and we're not talking past one another? And any
Great question.
experience or thoughts on that?
Oh yes, having been involved in, started, created, contributed to a cajillion projects over 30 plus years now.
Yeah,
Yes, quite a few. So, and this is where Dan Sullivan and Strategic Coach has just phenomenal tools. So something like the strategy circle, there's a book on
yep,
that, impact filter. And Dan is brilliant because Dan comes up with tools that are perfect for his, well, on a Colby profile, 10 quick start brain. Even if you don't know what that is, you
yeah,
can tell it's fairly extreme. I'm a 9. And how do you get these ideas out to other people? Well, you have to define the result.
yep,
So in either our strategy circle or even impact filter, well, let me talk about strategy circle. The
yep,
goal is what you want to have happen. The result is, what does it look like when it's done and done really, really well?
yeah,
So think about a land development project.
yeah,
There, you've got a list of success criteria that is not short.
yep,
This time frame, this budget, this return, you
yep,
know, and also not a complete pain in the rear end,
yeah.
right? Like it can't be so filled with friction. You're like, I never want to do this again. Like, so
It'll be
it has,
fun. Yeah,
right? It has to be fun. You and I have very similar motivators. It needs to be fun. And then you're like, oh, and exciting. And what's the next thing we could do together? I mean, that's part of it. People don't often put the emotional
Right.
or motivational parts into a project, but they really matter.
Yeah.
So I think there's very measurable things, there's the hard things, and then there's, I hate calling them the soft things. There's just how you feel about the project at the end.
Yeah.
That you bring out the best in people and you create something special that has an impact and you want to do it again. So that would be part of a really great list. In our impact filter, what's the purpose, the importance, and the ideal outcome?
Yeah.
Best result if you do take action, worst result if you don't, or if it goes poorly.
Right.
You sent me one before we started this podcast, which I loved every second of. And I do the same thing with people I'm interviewing. I'm like, here's the best and worst example of how this could go. Right. And that gives me the lane. I know exactly where to stay. I know exactly what you're looking for. I can deliver really, really well because you've been conscious and intentional about what you're looking for. So getting your thoughts down onto paper or digitally is a huge thing to do. And answering those questions. What is the purpose? What is the importance?
Right.
What's the ideal outcome? What does it look like when it's done and done really well? Otherwise, people walk around going, I want this. And we expect other people to read our minds. And frankly, that ain't going to happen. So long answer to your question, but those are some very important criteria.
And to our listeners, and I think you can actually get this and download it on the Strategic Coach website. And Shannon had mentioned the impact filter. And being a CPA, I like to do lists. I like to check boxes, do this, didn't do that. And so we have a lot of checklists and processes at launch. But I started doing the impact filters for our team leads and say, here's our project. Here's the best result. Here's the worst result. And here's what success looks like. And I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but our team leads came to me and said, Carter, I really understand why we're doing this and how to get this done. And whereas before I'd been laying we lay a lot of this stuff out. And that was a real eye opener to me. I mean, I don't want to micromanage, but I think it's here's what looks like when it's done and it's done well.
Yeah.
And then we allow those team members who are working in their unique ability to get us to that point. And it's such an easier way of managing, especially when they're working in their unique ability and work to them is not working. It's what they enjoy.
So what you do when you share the impact filter, so brilliant move, by the way.
Thank you.
To you, is first of all, there's a couple aspects of that. You are demonstrating incredible leadership. And the great thing about that is because you're super clear. And the other thing about our tool, the impact filter, is you filter out the ideas that when you look at it, you're like, this makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like Dan does a whole bunch, maybe 10% of them get through to the team.
Yeah.
Like there's 90% there either were for him or just maybe never, maybe later, right? Yep. So you filter out the worst ideas. Your team really appreciates that. So incredible thoughtfulness on your own part and intentionality. You're providing leadership and direction. People want that. And then you don't have to micromanage them.
Yeah.
Because the list on the right-hand side becomes a checklist.
Yeah.
And it's, it can be high level or more delineated depending. But the other thing you've done is you've told them the why.
Yeah.
And I kind of love this about so technically I'm Gen X. Other people are, Gen Z.
Baby boomers.
All the things. But the younger they are, they're not doing things just because you said so. Yeah. They need to know the why. Because they're conscious and intentional and picky about the projects that they are going to dedicate their creativity, energy, all of the things to. Their capabilities. And so if you don't do the why and you just tell them to check all the boxes, they're like, no.
And that's exactly, I was handing this to the younger generation. I don't know what segment they were, but they came back and that has been, let's just be honest, boomers, look at the world differently, and as do Gen X and Gen Y, and how do we communicate? But I think exactly to your point, it's the why. Okay. Yeah. I understand why this is important and what could happen if we're not successful. Yeah.
Let's dive into that for another second, because there is a mindset. There's a mindset to team success. And one of my clients described it brilliantly. And he was talking about a particular profile, which I think we'll end up talking about those as we go through.
Yeah.
But he said, before I knew about it was Colby, I thought everyone was just like me, only not as good.
Yeah.
Right. And I laugh every single time I say it. I've quoted him for 20 years now.
Yep.
But the old mindset prior to even boomers was that my way is the right way. I'm going to tell you what to do and go do it.
Yeah.
The mindset for now, and I think actually it's unique ability mindset. I don't really care that much about the generations, is, you know what? I'm really, really good at this part. How can I present or provide an opportunity for other people to contribute their talents?
Yep.
I work very closely with my support partner, Katrina, who helped organize today. I am so grateful for her.
Yeah.
And my previous person was Nicole, also genius. And I have to tell you, well, first of all, the advantage of working with me is someone is never bored.
Yeah.
And smart people get bored.
Yeah.
So I work hard to be a great person to technically work for. Really, they tell me what to do. But the mindset is, for me to be able to do what I want to do and do best, I need people around me. You described it brilliantly a minute ago, that also want to contribute. I appreciate that. I value that highly. I do not take it for granted. I don't feel entitled to their support just because I'm paying them. I respect and honor the unique contribution that they're making. And that mindset allows for unique ability team success. And not having that mindset just puts sand in the gears. It's terrible.
And Shannon, you mentioned Colby. I think we should talk a little bit about Colby. High level. I know you're a certified Colby expert. I'm a boy. What is it? 6673.
You're a 6673. You have a wickedly capable Colby.
Yeah. And so could you just describe the four different classifications of Colby? And here again, there's not a right Colby, a wrong Colby. It's just the way we work. Or could you explain that?
Yeah, you can have a perfect Colby in the wrong role.
Yeah.
For you, right? That's like I'm extreme, but and I love to read, and I'm an excellent reader. I'm a lousy librarian. Right? That's what it does. So what Colby measures, so just a slightly bigger framework, there are three parts to the mind, and this has been studied by researchers for almost a century. So there's the cognitive, which we're all familiar with, IQ test, training, blah, blah, blah. Then there's the affect, which are most of the profiles out there. So Myers-Briggs, DISC, Clifton Strengths, even Working Genius, all of those are in what's called the affective, or what you care about, what you desire realm. Very important. No action happens without you wanting to. So want is very important. But what Colby measures, and it's the only validated instrument that measures, it's KOLBE, if anyone's curious as they're listening to this. And what it measures is how you strive, how you take action. And there are four modes. The first one is fact finder. This is how you research and how specific you are. And it's on a scale of 1 to 10. There are no zeros. There. So 1 is the lowest you can go, the shortest you can go, I should say. And I'm a 3. And you might think, oh, poor Shannon, she's deficient. Colby only measures strengths. Now, in some situations, that actually would be true. But the talent there, the strength is I simplify. I can take a look at a lot of data and information and pull out the 3 key components. And that keeps people who are getting analysis paralysis back into motion again. So again, Colby only measures strength. So fact finder is your mental energy for specifics and details. Follow through is the second one. This is how you arrange and design. This is your mental energy for structure, order, systems. You are a 6, my friend. I am a 2.
Okay. I
have 2 steps, start and stop. And if someone says, oh my gosh, and my sister's an 8, so it's pretty funny. And I'll be like, oh, there was a process for that, It doesn't occur to me. Now on quick start, I'm a 9 out of 10. So quick start is how you handle risks and uncertainty. It is your instinct for risk. And sometimes something will look really good on paper, but your gut's telling you, if you have initiating quick start, you're like, doesn't feel right, but you can't describe it, which is very frustrating. And then other times it looks terrible on paper. You're like, nope, this is for sure the right thing to do. Okay. So it's that instinct for risks and uncertainty and how much patience you have with that or capability. And then finally, the last one's really interesting, especially for your audience. It's implementer, which does not mean implementing projects. That's follow through. It
Yep.
means using implements, using tools.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping that when something goes into the ground, like the picture behind you,
Yeah.
some of those people, and it tends to be
Yeah.
the least verbal, by the way, but the longer the implementer, the more it's about how you handle
Right.
space and tangibles. For some people, it's in the abstract, which is when you can see something other people can't see yet.
Yep.
And for other people to actually make it real, you want some people who've got that quality control with
Right.
their hands.
And
so those are the 4 different striving modes.
and I'm just going to say something about me being a 3. My wife wishes as an implementer that I would be a 10 because she always wants me to do things. And I go, honey, I'm inept. I can't do anything. Put a hammer in my hand.
You'll drop it on your toe.
Yeah, you'll be calling the handyman on Monday.
I love it.
And so is it important in your opinion, when we're bringing team members on,
Yes,
to give them to have them do a Colby at a minimum amongst some of these other profiles.
100%. And you asked me in the fast filter, actually, you said, what's the secret sauce?
Yeah.
I'm going to say it's profiles.
Okay.
Because it is the quickest, most accurate way to get beyond just someone's training. What do you see on someone's resume or CV? You see what their training has been, whether or not they're suited for it, by the way.
Yeah.
And it takes about 3 months for the cracks to show if someone's going against their grain. And I think shortcuts is a good word. Some people might think it's a bad one. It's this incredible shortcut. And the cool thing about any profile, first of all, I don't think it boxes anyone in. Human beings are incredibly interesting, complex creatures, but it does give you language to help describe your strengths and capabilities and the things, frankly, you have no business doing to both yourself and to others.
Yeah.
Words are tools. The fact that, I can say I'm a 3295 and I know you're a 6673, and we both know what that means.
Yeah.
I know you're going to do a deeper dive into facts and the systems. We're going to jive wonderfully when it comes to the quick start.
Yeah.
I'm the one with the toolkit, not you.
Yeah.
Right? Because
Exactly.
I'm a 5. And my hobby, by the way, is in the summer at our property, chainsawing. Love it. It's my most fun thing. I've got 4 different ones now, right? It's like it's a weird hobby especially for women, but it's like, I don't like dead limbs on trees.
Well, you are Canadian too, and you kind of get that Canadian lumberjack blood in you. That's good.
Know. I have a friend in Georgia though that wants me to come down. But so I'm quick start implementer. That's kind of my deal. Am I ever going to make a living with my 5 implementer? No, I'm not. But I do go help out my friends on weekend. So it gives us this incredible shortcut. And then, for instance, I was hiring my sister, and I made her do the Colby first. And she comes from a teaching background. She goes, "You mean I might not get the job if I don't have the right Colby? Colby MO, my Colby profile." I'm like, well, the worst thing I could do as both your sister and your friend and as an employer is to hire you for a role for which you don't have the mental energy. That would be not very nice and not very wise. She goes, "Oh, okay." Turns out she's an 8 follow through and can run circles around me in terms of organization. She outgrew me in 6 months. But yes, Colby for sure. And the other one that I now do, if I'm just meeting a team or working with them for the first time, the other one I use is Working Genius. And if anyone's familiar with Patrick Lencioni, brilliant guy, someone I've followed forever and for decades, and just real insight into teams, 5 dysfunctions of a team. Some people might be familiar with the advantage, politics, silos and turf wars, all the things. But he came up with his profiles. He said he uncovered it, not discovered it, of Working Genius. And it's the whole from the 30,000 foot view down to the people that will land the plane in terms of, so that tells me where in the creative process someone wants to spend their time. Wonder, invention, discernment, galvanizing, enablement, tenacity. Spells widget, which took me way too long to figure out. But anyway, that's the plan. So if I know where in the creative process someone wants to hang out, and then I know how they're going to take action, that's
now you can slot them in the various.
Yes. So at the beginning, if there's a lot of research being done, I'm going to look
Yeah.
for my initiating fact finder.
Yeah.
Once the plan's been set, then we're going to move on to, some other profiles. Once it's actually in the building phase, I want my implementers
Yeah.
driving trucks. Thank you very much. So I'm a profile, I hate to say junkie, but kind of. I do curate. I'm very picky about the ones I recommend. Of all of the 35 or 50 profiles I've done, there's 4 that are my go-tos. And the other 2, by the way, if you're dying to know, are Clifton Strengths and something called Print.
Okay.
That's for maybe another conversation, but because that's more personality and again, what your motivation is, but to see how people take action and where in the creative process people want to spend time, those 2 profiles are incredible.
Yeah.
And it does become the secret sauce for sure.
Well, and to the, using all this information, the Working Genius and Colby, and then looking at the organization you're trying to build and find the right who's to help you with the hows that you're not good at.
There we go.
For us, who not how. So strongly recommend that book with Ben Hardy and Dan Sullivan. It is such just an astonishing concept, and it says everything in Who Not How. But I really encourage you to get the book to read it because it'll change your life. I swear.
Yeah. And to your point, it's like we have this thing where I was saying earlier with my friend before I knew about Colby, I thought everyone was just like me, only not as good.
Yeah.
That leads to being a rugged individual.
Yeah.
And when you realize instead of you having to do all the hows and do all the hard work, which means most of us go to the bottom of the learning curve, takes a while. There's a who out there who knows how to do the how.
Yeah.
Hire them.
Yeah.
Do a deal.
And
make it an interesting project. And then all of a sudden, which is who not how just encapsulates unique ability teamwork in 3 really short words.
3 words. Yeah. I don't know how to simplify it any more than that. I don't know if you can get it down to 2. I think
3-letter words. I mean, come on.
Yeah. And all of our listeners are entrepreneurs, whether they have their own business or they're working within businesses. And it's one of the most challenging, but one of the most rewarding careers. I know I'm unemployable. I think probably you're unemployable. I mean, because we just look at the world differently. But when it comes to the mindset, I think a lot of my clients, and some of them, were, and I'm going back to some of the mentors that I grew up with, especially in California, they were CPAs. And they said, I'm a CPA, but I see Harry making all this money as a home builder. I'm smarter than Harry. And, if he can do it, I can do it. And so they went from being a CPA to a home builder.
Nice.
And a lot of that rugged individualism, is how they were brought up and what happened in their company. But when we're looking at team building strategies and you're coaching your clients, what are the key strategies that you're trying to instill in successful teams?
My number one thing is know thyself. Right? Which means know your own profiles. Like when we hire people, when we put people through our hiring process, we give them, I don't want to say a battery of profiles, but kind of. And whether or not we hire them, they leave better than how we found them.
Yeah.
Because they leave with that self-awareness. And then if we do hire them, I mean, people talk about our onboarding process is like, whoa, I learned so much about myself. I mean, that's their introduction to strategic coach. And it's so valuable when because then they can lean into their strengths. It is transformative to let people know what they're already good at, because most of them have been raised in I was going to say a school system that it was all about the cognitive, and you didn't get appreciated for your uniqueness. You got appreciated for whether or not you could get a good grade on a test. And so this is a whole different, it's a mindset shift right there. But to your point, this is what you're doing, what everyone listening is doing, is incredibly entrepreneurial. And
Yeah.
there are some mindsets that will set you up for success, and there's some that will not.
Yeah.
So one of the things I created at the beginning, because I was coaching these team members, so
Yeah.
I created this program. People were sending their teams to me, which I was very grateful for. But for some people, it was sinking in, and for some people, it was sinking in like less than an inch. I'm like,
Yeah.
what the hell is going
Yeah.
on? And so I was talking to some of my colleagues, and we realized some of them had an entrepreneurial attitude, some of them did not.
Yeah.
And so then I created an exercise called the entrepreneurial attitude exercise. Shocking. And so we profiled them based on the best team members we knew from our company, the best team members we'd met with our client's company, and put that into a 12 point exercise. They would grade themselves 1, never, 5, always. And we started handing that out. And because people who had an entrepreneurial attitude thrive, they learned unique ability, they learned the time system, they learned all the strategy circle, the impact filter, things we've been talking about. The ones who just took it as a free day out of the office, or a shopping trip, I heard that once, that did not make me happy. They were just completely blowing it off. So I wanted to know whether or not people had an entrepreneurial attitude. And then Dan years ago said, "Oh, write a book." So I did.
Yeah. And that's your team success handbook.
That's the team success handbook. So let's list quickly the 12. Because if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to be like, well, duh. And if you're not, you're going to be like, oh, now I get it. I actually wrote this book so that entrepreneurs didn't have to. I wrote it on your behalf.
Yep. Thank you very much for that, by the way. And it's been around for a while, and I refer to it often.
I reread it. It's like, I wouldn't actually change a word. It's very timeless.
Yeah.
So here are the 12 things. Number 1, always focus on creating value, which is leadership, relationship, and creativity. Take initiative. Focus on results, not time and effort. Have an ownership attitude. Be in alignment. I hired not 1, not 2, but 3 people whose goal in life was to work for a nonprofit company. Last time I checked, Strategic Coach was a for-profit company. So there's that. My bad. Be a partner. So even though Katrina is technically my executive assistant when hiring, I actually call her my support partner.
Yeah.
Right? She has her talents and capabilities. I have mine. I don't want to manage her.
Yeah.
If anything, I want to be managed. So something like that mindset of being a partner with your capabilities and strengths that you bring to it, you're not, the whole power hierarchy thing is not useful. Take action, be open to new ideas, which for some people is very challenging. Number 10 is to communicate. If there's one that entrepreneurs score themselves lower on, it's number 9, communicate.
Yeah.
The one they feel
and I'm guilty of that. And we'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay, cool. Number 10, this was a fun one to come up with. Learn how to handle strong emotions.
Yeah.
They are a natural, normal part of entrepreneurial life. And sometimes one team member, she kind of shocked me. She said, it's not my entrepreneur's emotions I have to worry about. It's mine, my own. Yeah. And I was like, does this still work? And I'm like, yes, it does.
Yeah.
Number 11 is have patience and compassion. It takes time for people to change their habits. And number 12, which every entrepreneur knows extremely well, don't give up.
Ever.
You have to have grit and resilience. It is, without that, quit now. Those are the things I wrote down and wrote about, which was very fun.
And if you have a team that has those mindsets, and here again, we're going to do some better than others. And I'm still learning how to communicate. And one of the things that you had provided was a thinking tool on how you like to receive information and give information.
Yes.
And in fact, I am inundated, and we're going to talk a little bit about Superpower too, with stuff, emails, calls, Slack, Asana. There's no way to process it at all. And I'm really good at doing drive-bys and just saying blah, 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 and then going on and then coming back because I am a follow-through, a week later, where's this?
And they're like, what?
Yeah, what are you talking about? And
we call that a drive-by delegation, by the way.
Drive-by delegate. I'm really good at that. I'm trying to get better, but it allows us to look at mindsets, and I find these very if we're able to implement these and have the team that's implementing them, we're going to have a successful team.
100%.
And what happens if, and this is difficult. We're dealing with humans. We bring in people. We spend a lot of time and effort training them. I mean, I'm speaking for everybody here,
Yeah.
whether a strategic coach or a builder or developer or somebody here at launch. But oftentimes we just find out, they're a drag. There's this tension. There's this grayness around conversations with these individuals. Thoughts, and I think you have a term for this actually.
Oh, which one are you thinking
The
of?
multiplication by
Ooh,
subtraction. Yeah.
yes. Yes.
Which is an interesting way to look at how we handle some of these tough conversations and decisions.
Right. So if someone has an entrepreneurial attitude, and again, are we all going to be fives every day? No,
Yeah.
but my minimum standard is four.
Yeah.
Just I have high standards.
That's
So
good
I
enough.
want a 4 out of a 5. And and it's interesting because you can actually use that exercise. You could I actually slide across the table in interviews going, this is what we expect from you. And when they
Yeah.
come back, I'm like, good. Kelly Knight uses it as part of her hiring process at EOS Worldwide.
Mhm.
Like it's powerful. But you could give it to someone, have them score themselves, you score them and compare notes. Because they could think they're taking initiative all over the place. And you're
Yeah.
like, you haven't given me a new idea in
Yeah.
10
Yeah.
months.
Yeah.
Right, something like that. But so there's that. So there's that. And I'll give you guys a link so you can
Okay,
download it.
that'd be
Which is
great.
really fun. It's yourteamsuccess.com, by the way. Just do download the tools, Your Team
Okay.
Success, and then you can get all the goodies. So occasionally you will do everything in your power to have someone be successful, but they're just not a right fit. And there are a couple. So I wrote a book because, again, not one, not two, but 3 people had shown up. These were actually leaders who were very capable, but they were not in alignment. They
Yeah.
were there for their reasons, kingdom building, not the entrepreneurs. And I
Yeah.
could identify it. I identified with one of my friends in the first meeting. And I'm like, John, he's not on the same page. He goes,
Yeah.
oh, yes, he is. He's going to be part of the succession, the rest of it. 2 years later, he calls me and says, Shannon, you were right. I'm
Yeah.
like, told you. So I had to write a book.
Yeah.
So I did. And so multiplication by subtraction is really interesting. It's how to gracefully let go of wrong fit team members.
Yeah.
And I actually start off by talking about the 3 parts of the mind. And maybe you've got someone in the wrong position. And
Mhm.
maybe we moved people around in our
Yeah.
company before we had all these tools. We're much faster now. But sometimes you still have someone with the wrong attitude. And I have a really fun chart that I made on page 34 and 35.
Okay.
Can I just list them quickly because they're pretty funny?
Yeah. No. Go ahead. That's
Okay.
far
And
away.
if someone hits more than 3 or 4, pay attention. So malaise or disengaged, oppositional, can't keep pace, drama queen or king, not accountable, focused on status. They have an entitlement attitude. They're clueless. By the way, the clueless people, when you go to fire them, are also clueless.
Yeah.
Uncooperative and non-collaborative, lack of integrity, arrogance, aka God's gift to your company, and not adaptable.
Yep.
It was so fun to write this list. I can't believe
That covers a lot of bases.
Sure does.
And the thing that's really interesting, and I believe in data, my fact finder, and we can have these criteria, and if we're honest with ourselves about individuals, we may check all of the boxes, but yet we're
We
still
might.
finding it hard to let go of that individual.
Yeah.
What causes that, Shannon, in your thoughts? I mean, there could be a lot of different reasons, but I'm just curious what you think.
I made even though I'm not a natural list maker, I did survey people and we got it. There's a lot of reasons why we don't take action. It's because like we dread confrontation. We
Yep.
we don't want that. Some people cry. There are
Yeah.
tears. We really don't like tears.
Yeah.
The number one issue though, I would say, is we think it's our fault. We think it's something that we have not done.
Yeah.
Oh, we haven't trained them enough. I haven't spent enough time with them. Well, the truth is the right fit team members start like grabbing stuff off your plate. Like, hey, I can take care of that.
Yep.
Hey, you want me to monitor your Slack and I'll let you know if anything, let me make sure I know your success criteria. And then do you want me to manage
Yeah.
that for you? And you're like, no,
Yeah.
the clouds just parted and angels started
Yep.
singing. So it's interesting. We blame ourselves when in
Yeah.
fact it's not. The other thing is we don't want the work to come back to us. That's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
another legit reason. We think a warm body is better than nobody. There are lots of reasons why we don't take action. In fact, I
Yeah.
have on the back of the book, because or we can't pinpoint the problem. That's another one. Hiring is hard. And probably the hardest one, especially for leaders, is that they're still getting great results. They're
Yeah.
just toxic to the team.
Yeah.
And we are the last to know.
Yeah. And I think you hit the nail right on the head. Everybody else knows about it except the entrepreneur, if I can, the visionary. And when you get rid of that person, what I have found in my experience is like, oh my God, why didn't I do this sooner?
What
The
took you so
world,
long?
the world does not come to an end because you let, everything you were thinking that would cascade and never occurs.
Nope.
And eventually you will find that person found the right fit for them and they're happier.
And I think that's key. It's like when someone quits and stays,
Yeah. Yeah.
mentally quits or emotionally quits, they're toxic. And
Yeah.
it's not good for them and it's
Yep.
not good for other people. And you take away the bad apple is always the expression.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, that's why it's called multiplication by subtraction, not addition. It's multiplication. Because all of a sudden the ballast is removed and boom, you can go up. I actually almost put a hot air balloon on the cover because that's kind of what it's like. And you're like, oh, so they get released to the marketplace is the term that I have heard. And it doesn't take long.
Yeah.
The preparation to fire someone is, talk to your lawyers is always my advice.
Yeah.
But he said, if I had realized it only takes 15 minutes, I would have done this a long time ago.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, like we think it's going to be this long drawn out thing. It doesn't have to be. Now, there is one other situation where you have someone, I was just talking about this with a colleague yesterday. It's called the unique ability incompatibility approach.
Okay.
Very wordy. But what it means is great human, not at our company.
Yeah.
But you like them, you're still friends. So instead of walking to the door and locking them out of everything, you actually give them time for interviews. You write them a great reference letter, and it's kind of this agreed parting of the ways with a time frame.
Yeah.
Clear. But it's much gentler. But you have to really trust that person because they still have access to your data, right? But so it can be long, it can be short. It can always be gracious and respectful. I think that's the key thing. But they end up better. You have to have some trust and faith in that, and you end up so much better when you finally make that decision.
And talking about multiplication, I'm going to switch subjects on you again. And can you tell me the Reader's Digest version of Superpowered? And the secret that helps every entrepreneur eliminate suck and 10x their impact. And it's a little longer than that, but I don't want to preclude people from not going and getting a full in-depth deep dive into the book, but because this relates to me. I wish I would have read this book a long time ago.
And I like simplifying things, so this is not hard. But so here's the problem that the Superpowered solves. We often will hire and leverage the rest of our company before we actually get someone for us.
Yeah.
And Stephen, one of my co-authors, Stephen Nooner, his team staged an intervention. It's like, you are the bottleneck. You are the reason why things are not happening. So Superpowered is when you have a designated who for you. So we call it an entrepreneurial executive assistant. I call it a strategic assistant. We use a couple of different terms, but it's really having that right hand person. It's my Katrina, prior to that, my Nicole, who actually taught me so much about how to be a great person for whom to work. And it's amazing just how much you can offload that part of your brain. So Carter, for you, one of the challenges is with a 6 fact finder and 6 follow through, you see the need for all the specifics and all the organization, and you have the mental energy to actually handle it yourself.
Yeah.
Here's the challenge, though, that keeps you from handling bigger, more strategic opportunities. Your fact finder follow through is tied up with this little minutia stuff, which, by the way, is still important, still needs to happen. Yeah. But we only have so much mental energy. And if it's used up all on that stuff, you do not have it available for big projects and big relationships and big opportunities. That is a cost.
Yep.
And the investment you make in a strategic assistant, in an entrepreneurial executive assistant, will leverage you. That's the 10x the impact. It's amazing.
It's more than 10x. And for all of our listeners, and no matter where you're at, don't be the bottleneck. I
Right?
mean, look at making the investment, and it's not a cost. It is an
No.
investment. It will pay it'll multiply your results in so many, in personal life, in business life, in
Yeah.
revenue. It's absolutely unbelievable.
One of
And
my favorite parts of the book, Carter, is where the assistants actually write their story. And you actually, like, some people don't want to hire someone that's like, oh, I don't want someone to have to do
yeah,
all the crap work and stuff.
yeah,
And you read this and you're like, oh, they actually live and thrive in this position. And
unique
they look
ability.
at
Yep,
unique ability and they want to be in a support role. They're
yep,
picky about whom they will support.
yeah,
Don't forget that. So you have to be a good human to earn that.
exactly.
But when you read it, you're like, oh, that's what they're talking about with unique
Yeah,
abilities working together, is that they want to be doing this. And frankly, to watch us do it is painful for them because we do
yeah,
it really poorly and we're way too highly paid for the quality work we're doing. So when you get superpowered, I quadrupled my productivity.
yeah.
It's stellar. It's
And
amazing.
and now you're working in your unique ability, not the things that you're competent at or inept at or even excellent.
And it makes me a better person. I'm a better mom. I'm a
Yeah,
better, more present spouse. I'm not working till 11 o'clock at night. You know, the hours I used to pull, oh my God.
yeah. Same here.
And stuff gets happened more easily. I'm not creating friction. I'm not always apologizing or feeling bad. I mean, I cannot tell you the list of things when I'm well supported, which I am brilliantly, is all of a sudden life gets so much better. It's that lack of friction and drag we talked about at the beginning.
And I think that's a great way to probably end this right now.
There's
So
too much to talk about.
I know, and we're just getting started. So
I
I'd
know.
like to have you back, Shannon, because this is such an important, if you're willing, to talk more about this, because it's such an important, and I mean, we're dealing with our teams all the time. And what can we do to have better teams, better interaction, be better team members
Yes.
supporting our teams as we, move our businesses, projects forward. So, Shannon, thank you very much for taking the time. And for our listeners, I'm going to have all of Shannon's contact information, her podcast, her books. You mentioned some links to the Team Success downloads. I'll be
Yeah.
providing that as well, Shannon. And to our listeners, if you found this podcast informative, please share it with your team members. And we look forward to hearing you participating in our next podcast. So thank you very much. Thanks,
Thank
Shannon.
you so much, Carter. It's a total joy.
You have been listening to the Land to Lots podcast with Carter Froelich. Follow us wherever you find your podcast to never miss a new episode.